Yeah, here we'll just start with question number 46 and we'll see how many questions we'll complete in this session. And I'm sure that I'll be completing all the questions from India's 115, except the additional questions, new additional questions that were added in our new module. So let's get started from question number 46. So this is the fifth part of India's 115. I think it takes only six parts. Until this fifth part will complete this, and sixth part additional question. That's what we are done with this. And question number 46 goes like this: there is a TL Limited, and it's a logistic company. So this logistics company is providing some inland and sea transportation services. And here there is a customer called Horizon Limited. It enters into a contract with TNL and for transportation of goods from India to Sri Lanka. So this voyage will be taken, I mean, 20 days. It takes 20 days to get the goods from Mumbai to Colombo. And here TNL is responsible for shipping the goods from Mumbai to Colombo. So what is whether this performance obligation is met over a period of time. So in order to say whether a performance obligation is met over a period of time or at a point in time, so we have certain criteria, like there is three criteria to be met for the any performance obligation to be satisfied over time. So the first criteria is whether the customer is simultaneously receiving and consuming the benefits from the services. Okay, here you can see that whether if TNL Limited is providing a logistic service, transportation service, voyage service, then whether Horizon Limited is consuming it, yes, as and when it is performed, because the transport is done, that distance that is traveled is already done. You need not travel it again. And the second thing is the asset is created that the customer controls. No, here no asset is created. And the third, here any one criteria should be satisfied. And the third one is no alternate. There should not be any alternative use for the entity. There should not be any alternative use for the entity. So this voyage doesn't have any alternative use for the entity, right? So going to the answer, as the voyage is performed, the service undertaken by TNL is progressing. Yes. So first criteria is satisfied. That is, no entity, no other entity will need to reperform this service. Okay, and till so far the voyage has been performed, it is delivered part way and it is consumed, like it is consumed by the customer, right? TNL is being consuming. The following factors are critical for assessing that for assessing that how the services performed by TNL are consumed by the customer. So as and when simultaneously when the TNL Limited is providing the service, Horizon Limited is consuming the service. These two factors are critical. First one is, as the voyage is performed, the service undertaken by the TNL is progressing, and so no other entity will need to reperform this service again. And the second one is that the customer is directly benefiting from the voyage, and as and when it is progressing. So we can say we have satisfied the criteria, and hence here the performance obligation is met over time, over a period of time. Next question 47. It's a risk advisory firm. It enters into a contract with the company WBC Limited. So here it's giving risk advisory services to the company. So the professional opinion that is given by AFS advisory firm, it relates to the facts and circumstances that are specific to the company. So if the company were to terminate the consulting contract for reasons other than the entity's failure to perform as promised, then the contract requires the company to compensate this AFS, that is risk advisory firm, for the costs that have incurred, plus that compensation, plus it should give 15% margin, right? 15% margin on the compensation also. So this 50% margin approximates the profit margin for the entity that it earns from the similar contracts. So here whether it is a performance obligation over time. So as said, as per India's 115 revenue from contracts with customers, three criteria should be satisfied. First is customer should simultaneously receive and consume the benefits from the services that is provided by AFS, that is risk advisory firm, and the company should benefit only when the audit opinion is provided. Here the company will be benefiting only when the audit opinion is provided. So here, is the company simultaneously receiving and consuming the benefit? No, because until and unless the audit opinion is provided, you cannot say this criteria is satisfied. Second thing, second criteria, the asset is created that the customer controls. Here no asset is created because it's a service. It's a service contract. No asset is created. And the third criteria is no alternative use to the entity and a right to seek payment. Yes, here the work that is done till date, I mean, without providing any opinion, audit opinion, the work that is done has no alternative use. No person can use that work again. Also, here the audit firm is having a what you say compensation plus 15% margin, right to seek payment. So it goes like this: the services that is provided by AFS are specific to the company, and the WBC and do not have, it is specific to that company only, and this entity cannot use the service that is given to that WBC for any other firm, right? It's time wasted and it cannot use it for any other firm, and does not have any alternative use for that risk advisory firm. Also further, this risk advisory firm has a right to enforce payment if the contract was early terminated. Payment compensation plus 15% margin. So this is all about 47th. 48th is it's like same thing, but here Space Limited will provide a I mean, it is construction contract for construction of a space satellite. It is providing a this satellite with the government agency, and also this, although this Space Limited is in business for building such satellites across the world, however, there are some specifications. I mean, I can say this asset is customized satellite, and also in the event of termination, the company has a right to enforce the payment for the work completed till date. So here, evaluate if here the performance obligation is satisfied over time or not. So first, while evaluating the pattern, so there are again three criteria. First is whether the customer is simultaneously receiving and consuming the benefits. Here, the customer can, here government agency can benefit um, only when the satellite is fully constructed, and no benefit can be taken by the company, taken by the government agency without the satellite is fully constructed. So you can say this criteria is not satisfied. And the second one is whether as the asset is created that the customer controls. See, as per the facts, the customer does not acquire the control over the asset as it is created. As in when it is created, the customer is not acquiring the control. And the third one, no alternative use. Here the entity Space Limited should not have any alternative use. Yes, as the asset is customized, to the customer requirements, such that any diversion for the different customer, you cannot divert the asset to the different customer. If and all if you wanted to divert, you need to do some significant work on that satellite. So therefore the asset has a practical limitation in being uh, in being put to alternative use. It has a limitation, practical limitation, that is you need to work significantly on that, even I mean, if and all if you wanted to divert it to the other customer. And the second thing is right to seek payment. Yes, here Space Limited has a right to enforce the payment as well, as in when the contract was early terminated for the reasons that is other than the Space Limited failure to perform. So here you can say that this criteria is met and such performance obligation is said to be met over a period of time. Also, next question, 47. So this also is same thing. ABC is entering into a contract, okay, for building an equipment, and the customer is paying 10% advance and then 80% in installments. So first 10% in advance, it's paying 80% in installments of 10% each. I mean, it's paying 8 installments of 10% each. Next 10% at the end it is paying. So here you can say further, if the customer is terminating the contract, the entity is entitled to retain the payments made, and here the company will have no further right for compensation. Also, the cannot company can retain the payments that was made till date, but it cannot have a right for extra compensation, like if it have not if it had done more work than what is supposed to. I mean, last payment is received, for example, on April, and the work is terminated on May. Next payment will be received on June or July. So the work that is done for 1 month, he don't have any right for asking that compensation from the customer. So but he can retain the payments that were already paid to him. Here you should evaluate whether there is a performance obligation, whether the performance obligation is over a period of time or not. So here the company should evaluate again three things: whether it is simultaneously receiving and consuming the benefits. You can say the customer can benefit only when the asset is fully constructed. So here also, only when the asset is fully constructed and no benefits are consumed. No benefits are consumed as it is constructed. And the second criteria is that as an asset should be created that the customer is controlling. So as per the facts, here customer does not acquire any control over the asset created. And the third one is no alternative use. I mean the customer, here the entity ABC who is entering into a contract, it should not have any alternative use. Here this asset is also customized. Like the customer has a specific right over the asset, and the customer is having a specific right over the asset, and here the company does not have a right to divert it to alternative use. In other words, you can say there is a contractual restriction to use the asset for alternative purpose, right? And next, last, also early payment. In the event of early payment, this condition is not getting satisfied. You can say if the event in the event of early termination is made, then the company has a right to retain retain the payments that was made, but it cannot, however, such payments that were retained need not necessarily compensate the selling price of the partially constructed asset. So if the customer has was to stop making payments, right? So you can say that the customer does not have a legally enforceable right to payment, okay, for the work completed to date. And the criteria, uh, under and this criteria under this three criteria are not met. So if any one criteria is met, you can say that the performance obligation is over time, like performance obligation is satisfied over a period of time and revenue will be recognized over a period of time. But here all the three are not satisfied, so you cannot, so here the revenue cannot be recognized over a period of time. And next question is 50th question, 50. Here the entity and owner and a manager of health clubs, they are entering into a contract with the customer, okay, and they are entering into a contract with the customer for 1 year, right? And here the customer has an unlimited use for this health clubs and promises to pay 100 rupees per month. Say he is paying 100 rupees per month for the health clubs customer, and here entity is also promising to provide the service of making the health clubs available for the customer to use as and when the customer wishes. So as and when the customer wishes, the as and when the customer wishes, he can come and use the health clubs. Also evaluate if the contract will qualify the satisfaction of the performance obligation over a period of time, and if yes, how should an entity measure its progress? You have to say whether it is, how should the measure, how to measure it. But here there are two questions in the question. First is whether it is satisfying over a period of time. Second is how you have to measure the progress of service. First, you have to use a criteria whether it is recognized, whether the revenue should be recognized over a period of time or not. For that, you have to apply the first criteria, that is whether the customer is simultaneously receiving and consuming the benefits. Yes, because the customer can use the health clubs anytime. The health club provides the access and service uniformly throughout the year, and to the extent to which the customer uses the health club does not affect the amount of remaining goods. To that extent, yes, he already consumed that service. So also here the customer, therefore you can say the customer is simultaneously receiving and consuming the benefits of the entity's performance as and when entity's performance as it performs, okay, by making the health clubs available to the customer. Consequently, second thing is the entity's performance obligation is satisfied over time. So as one criteria is satisfied, you need not go for second and third criteria. First criteria itself is satisfied, but it's better to write the three criteria in exam if you remember. But if you write the three criteria, you can say the first criteria is satisfied, and hence you can say that the performance obligation is satisfied over time. And again, once the pattern is set, and the second question here, he asked how to measure the progress, right? On straight line basis. Here, once the pattern is satisfied, once the pattern of satisfying this performance obligation is defined, once it is defined, then the company then determines how it should be measured. So it first said, yes, performance is over time. So over time, over a period of time, you have to recognize the revenue. Performance obligation is satisfied over time. So you have to recognize the revenue over a period of time. So here for measuring that, you have to use straight line method. The Services are uniformly provided to the customer throughout the year. Therefore, the best measure of progress is to recognize this revenue on a straight line basis over a period of time. 51st question. This is related to input method. So on 1st January, an entity contracts to renovate a building, right? Here for that building, including elevators also. Building plus installation of new elevators. So the entity estimates that um, the following things will happen. First, it entered into a contract for 50 lakhs, and that 50 lakhs includes elevators also of 15 lakhs. Now, what are the expected costs? Expected costs are 15 lakhs elevators and other costs is 25 lakhs, altogether 40 lakhs. You can say the entity purchases this elevators, and that elevators are delivered to the site 6 months before only. 6 months before they were actually installed. So here, whether the customer is getting the asset before only, right? And the entity is also using input method based on the cost of the measure, based on the cost to measure this progress towards completion. So the entity has incurred actual other costs, of 5 lakhs by 31st March 2011. So how will the customer recognize the revenue? How will the customer recognize the revenue? Is the performance satisfied over a period of time or not? Whether the revenue to be recognized over a period of time. So there is a guidance on input method. First, you have to write about the guidance. If I'm not wrong. Yeah, what actually the guidance says like this: input method guidance. You have to measure the progress based on the percentage of the cost incurred that is related to the budget. Okay, percentage of the cost that is incurred to date. You have to calculate total cost that is estimated and cost incurred till date. That is the percentage. First you have to calculate, and from that, from the whole cost you have to exclude the cost of the elevators. I mean, the cost of any asset. See, I'll read this clearly. The guidance is also given here only. The costs and other in the costs that were incurred has two major components. You can say one is elevators that were already delivered to the customer 6 months before, and the cost of construction service. Here, the elevators are the part of overall construction project and are not a distinct performance obligation. Here, the cost of elevators is substantial to the overall project, and they are incurred well in advance upon the delivery as said. So first is they are the part of the overall project, they are the part of the construction project. Second thing is they are substantial, important. I mean, elevator is important for the building. The cost of they are substantial means also the elevator is important. In that way also it is substantial, but here substantial means 15 lakhs amount, the amount of elevators. Okay, 15 lakhs is substantial in 40 lakhs. It's forming the major part in 40 lakhs. It's, you can say in that way it is substantial in the overall project. And also this 15 lakhs is incurred well in advance. And third one is the delivery is made at the site, and the customer is also acquiring the control of those elevators before only in advance. And next last one is there is no modification done to the elevators. So as in how the elevators were purchased, the installation can be made in the same way. You need not make any significant changes to the elevators before installing them. So here no modification will be made, which the company only procures and delivers at the site. So nevertheless, you can say as a part of the materials used in the overall construction project, the company is a principal in the transaction with the customer for such elevators also. So there is a guidance on the input method, that is by applying this guidance on the input method. First is you have to the measure of the progress should be based on the percentage of cost, as we discussed before about the guidance. Whenever the input method is given, it's important to write this. First, the measure of the progress should be based on the percentage of cost. So progress, how you have to measure the progress based on the percentage of cost that is related to the total budget. And whenever you are uh, calculating this percentage of cost, I mean total budget cost, from that you need to deduct the elevators. The cost of the elevator should be excluded when measuring such progress, and revenue for such elevators should be recognized, and this revenue for such elevator should be recognized to the extent of that cost only. I mean, extra revenue, whatever the percentage you are charging, it should not be charged on this elevator, right? So for the transaction price 50 lakhs, from this 50 lakhs also you have to deduct elevators, And from the cost 40 lakhs also you have to deduct 15 lakhs. So cost incurred till date excluding elevators is 5 lakhs. 5 lakhs, this 25 lakhs is 40 minus 15. Then in that way you have to find out this percentage of cost that is completed till date. That's what here in second point it said. The cost of the elevator should be excluded for measuring such progress, and the revenue for such elevator should be recognized to the extent costs were incurred. So here the revenue for attributing the revenue 35 lakhs, that is 50 lakhs minus elevators. From that also you need to exclude the cost of the elevators, because you should not allocate any see, 35 lakhs minus 25 lakhs, you have a 10 lakhs margin. So this 10 lakhs margin will not come for the elevators. That is that easy. So what is the revenue to be recognized here? 35 lakhs into 20%. Okay, 35 lakhs into 20%. That is the revenue to be recognized. So what is the profit? 7 lakhs minus 5 lakhs. That is the profit. That here it is clearly saying that the profit 7 lakhs minus 5 lakhs will not be recognized for the elevators 15 lakhs. That's it. So here revenue for the elevators will be 15 lakhs. That will be equal to the cost. See, because whatever the profit is there, it should not be allocated to this elevator. And also here total revenue to be recognized is 22 lakhs. That is elevators cost plus the revenue, which is including the profit. Cost plus profit margin of 20. Next, 52nd question. Here the company X enters into an agreement on X entered into an agreement on 1st January, right? Now the customer has a renovation. X is entering into an agreement with the customer for renovation of a hospital. X is renovating the hospital and installing ACs. So this is also same. AC is something like elevators only. Okay, total consideration is 50 lakhs as it is, and the promised renovation service that is included for the installation. And here the promised renovation service for installing the ACs is a single performance obligation that is satisfied over time, and also the expected cost of 40 lakhs, and this 40 lakhs includes 10 lakhs of ACs, air conditioners. And here the customer X determines that it is acting as a principal in accordance with Ind AS 115 because it obtains the control company of the ACs before they are transferred to the customers only, and also the customer obtains the control of the ACs when they are delivered to the hospital premises. Also here X is using the input method only on based on the costs incurred to measure its progress towards the complete satisfaction of the performance obligation. Also, as on 31st March 2011, other costs that were incurred excluding the ACs are 6 lakhs only. So easily without seeing the answer, we can calculate. We can calculate what is the revenue to be profit or revenue to be recognized. See, first 50 lakhs is there. In 50 lakhs minus, you have to do 10 lakhs. And from 40 lakhs, you have to exclude 10 lakhs. So what are the costs incurred till date? 6 lakhs. 6 lakhs divided by 30 lakhs, right? Uh, Cost incurred till date is 6 lakhs, and 30 lakhs is excluding the AC's cost. So 6 lakhs divided by 30 lakhs will be 20% again. And in this also you have to do 50 lakhs minus 10 lakhs, that is 40 lakhs. 40 lakhs into 20% is 8 lakhs, right? 8 lakhs. So what is the total revenue to be recognized? 8 lakhs plus 10 lakhs, 18 lakhs to be recognized. The same thing, this whole theory, the same you have to repeat as you have repeated for the elevators. And here you have to recognize the revenue of 18 lakhs, and your cost of goods sold is 16 lakhs, and your profit is again 2 lakhs. In the previous question it is 7 lakhs minus 5 lakhs, same 2 lakhs, same you have to show here also. It's just a repetition of a question but changing elevators to ACs. Question number 53 is the entity has fixed the fee contract. The entity has a fixed fee contract, and that fixed fee contract is 1 million, right? And that is to why the contract is to develop a product that meets the specified performance criteria to develop a product. So estimated cost to complete this contract is 9.5 lakh, and the entity also will transfer the control of the product over 5 years, and the entity uses the cost to cost input method to measure to measure the progress on the contract. Also, an incentive method is available if the product meets the following weight criteria. So, what is that weight criteria? First, if the weight is 951 kgs or greater, then you won't get any award, any fixed award. You'll get 0% incentive. And if your weight is of the fixed award will be percentage, specific percentage of the fixed fee. You won't get anything if your weight is 950 and more. And between 701 to 950, you'll get 10% award fees, and also you'll get incentive fees along with that. And 500 or less, even less, you'll get more award, 25%, and 2.5 incentive fees. Here, the entity has extensive experience in creating such products to meet the performance criteria as well. So, based on this experience, the entity has identified 5 engineering alternatives. What are the 5? First is that it will achieve 10% incentive, and two. So, what is the first 5 engineering alternatives? Like it has 5 engineering alternative that it will achieve 10% of incentive, and two alternatives that it will achieve 25% of incentive. Right? In that case, the entity is determining 95% of confidence in achieving 10% project. Also, engineering alternatives it have 5 for the 10% incentive, and 20% confidence for this 25% incentive. Okay, that is you have two engineering alternatives for earning 25% incentive. So you have, based on this analysis, the company believes that 10% is the most likely one, because 10% it is 95 you have 95% confidence to earn 10% incentive, and also you have 5 engineering alternatives for that. So the entity is confirming that it is most likely method, most likely percentage is 10%. Therefore, the entity is also concluding this 10% award in this transaction price while calculating the revenue. Okay. Why it is doing that? Because significant reversal of the amount in the cumulative revenue recognized will not occur. It is believing that it is concluding that it is probable that a reversal of amount will not occur in future until the uncertainty associated with the variable consideration is significantly resolved due to its 95% probability, 95% confidence in achieving that 10% award. Here the entity is reassessing its production status quarterly to determine whether it is on track or not to meet the criteria for this incentive award. So at the end of the year 4, it becomes apparent that this contract will fully achieve the weight based criteria. Therefore, the entity revises its estimate of variable consideration to include the entire 25% incentive fees in the year 4, because at this point it is probable that significant reversal in the amount of cumulative revenue recognized will not occur when the when when including this entire consideration in the transaction price. So you have to evaluate the impact of changes in this variable consideration. First year, first year it is 50,000. So this is the variable consideration that it's a practical question merely. So first you're simplifying things. First, you have to give what is your fixed consideration. See, in the question it said you will get a fixed consideration of 10 lakhs. Is 1 million. That is a fixed fee. And then you will get award. That is percentage of that 1 million. That is 10 lakhs. Okay. And the cost for this is 9.5. So fixed fee contract is 10 lakhs, and the cost that is incurring to complete the contract is 9.5 lakhs. Right? That one you have to write first, and second you have to give total estimated variable consideration. That is, what is the estimated variable consideration here? Variable consideration, that is the installments that is going to receive. Okay, that is given here. That is altogether 50 plus, if you add all this, you'll get 1 million. Okay, to see one second. Right, this is the evaluate the impact of changes in the variable consideration. Here it is cost incurred. So these 5 are the costs. Sorry, these 5 are the costs. When you add all this, you'll get 9.5 lakhs. So here 9,50,000 is the cost. So what you have to take first? You have to take fixed consideration, that is 1 million 10 lakhs, and then you have to take this cost of 9,50,000. And now this 9,50,000 is the cost. And the third column, and I mean third row, third calculation will be what is the incentive that you are receiving, variable incentive that you are receiving. So you have 10% confidence, and that 10% confidence is the first 3 years only. And next 2 years, as we have already read in the question, next 2 years it is thinking that it will get 25% incentive in the fourth year onwards. I mean fourth year and fifth year, it is thinking that it will get 25% incentive. That is, it is having the incentive of 2,50,000. Right, so your variable consideration is 1 lakh, 1 lakh, 1 lakh for first 3 years, and 2.5, 2.5 for 4 and 5 years. So next, after this, yeah, after this, fixed revenue. What is your fixed revenue? How to calculate it? You have to take the costs. First, you have some costs here. Okay, based on this cost, you have to calculate the fixed revenue. First, you have to take your fixed consideration. Okay, fixed consideration multiplied by what? Cost incurred divided by total cost. So what is the cost incurred by first in the first year? 50,000 you incurred in the first year. What is the total cost? 9,50,000. 50,000 divided by 9,50,000 is the total cost. So this is a ratio. I mean here 10 lakhs, 1 million, whatever you have 1 million, that 1 million you are, allocating to the 5 years based on the ratio in which the cost is occurred. It's that simple. So 1 lakh multiplied by 50,000 divided by total cost, 9,50,000. So in that way, first you will allocate all your fixed revenue, and next you have to allocate your variable revenue. Variable revenue is, you will allocate your variable revenue of 1 lakh for the first year. I mean, you're thinking you'll get 1 lakh incentive for the whole project. It's like that. It's not for the every year 1 lakh. So this is for the whole project. Incentive will be for the whole weight. If your weight is 701 to 950, this incentive fees will be for the whole project, and you are just expecting that in the first 3 years you'll have 1 lakh. I mean, first 3 years you are expecting you'll get 1 lakh, and in the fourth and 5 year you're expecting that you'll get 2.5 lakh. It's not that every year you get this incentive. You get it after the completion, after you met this weight criteria. So it's like that. So first 1 lakh you have to, in this table you can see, I'm showing you the working note. Here in this table you can see that you're allocating, here you will allocate it, variable revenue will be allocated. So first, as I told you, first you have to write the fixed consideration. Second, you have to write what are the costs that were completed till date. Next, you have to write what is the variable consideration that is expected at the end of the year. You are expecting every year, and then fixed consideration. Fixed consideration, fixed revenue, whatever you have this 10 lakhs, it should be allocated in the ratio of the total cost. Okay, and next you have to give the variable revenue. Variable revenue is nothing but this 1 lakh will be allocated. First, this 1 lakh will be allocated based on the uh, uh, ratio of this cost. So 50,000 divided by 9,50,000 into 1 lakh. In that ratio, you have to allocate 1 lakh, 1 lakh, 1 lakh for the first 3 years. Okay. For the first 3 years, it will be easy only. Same. For this year, you are giving 52, and for this year, you are again allocating based on the cost. That is, your cost is 1 lakh 75,000 divided by 9.5 lakh multiplied with this 1 lakh. You'll get this. Here also the same you'll get variable revenue. And in the fourth year onwards, it gets changed. Why? Because fourth year onwards, you're estimating that it is 2.5 lakhs. So it is 2. So it is your cost, that is 2,75,000 divided by 9,50,000 multiplied with this. Then you get this. But here you have some extra revenue, extra cumulative adjustment. So because in fourth year your estimate is getting changed. So for that cumulative revenue, you have to do some cumulative catch-up adjustment. That is, first you have to take the variable consideration. So what is the variable consideration that you're expecting? That is 2,50,000. See, here you're expecting 2,50,000 in the fourth year. So 2,50,000 incentive fees you're expecting in the fourth year. That 2,50,000, you have to check what is the percentage. What is the percentage of cost that is completed till date? Till date means how you will you do that? In 9,50,000 you have already incurred 9 lakh here, and 50,000 is yet to be incurred in fifth year. So up to fourth year, how much you have completed? you have to check that percentage, that is 95%. See, 9 lakh divided by 9 lakh 50,000 into 100, you have to do that, you'll get 95%. After that, you have to take cumulative costs that was occurred till date, that only you did now. Cumulative cost is 9 lakhs divided by total cost is 9 lakh 50,000 into 100, you got 95%, that is the percentage complete till date, I mean till the end of the fourth year. Okay, next here, cumulative revenue. How to calculate the cumulative revenue in this fourth year is first, through the fourth year is, first of all, you have to calculate first, here first of all, you have to calculate what is the amount of revenue, variable revenue that is incurred till date. That is the total of the variable revenue. That is 5263 plus this plus this plus this. Till here, what is the amount recognized till date? Okay, that total will be 1 lakh 38 130. This one. Okay, now you have to subtract 2 lakh 50 minus this 1 lakh 38. Then you will get the cumulative catch up adjustment. So it's very simple adjustment. First thing is you have to calculate what is the amount of percentage completed till date, that is 95%, that is 9 lakh 50 9 lakh divided by 9 lakh 15 to 100. After that, what is the cumulative revenue that is earned till date? Okay, 2.5 minus this will give you a catch up basis. So here you got it, cumulative catch up adjustment. After that, what is your total revenue? Your fixed revenue plus your variable revenue, and what are your total costs? If you might subtract the revenue from the cost that was incurred till date, then you get operating profit, and that's it. You have to find out the margin from the profit earned. So here, for the simplicity, it is assumed that there is no change in the estimated cost to complete. It is 9 lakh 50,000 only. It is, there is no change throughout the year. And also in practice, under the cost to cost measure progress, like how much cost is incurred till date, that we have been allocating it based on the ratio. In practice, total revenue for each period is determined by multiplying the total transaction cost, I mean fixed and variable, by the ratio of the cumulative revenue. It's like you are writing how you have calculated it. Okay, minus the revenue recognized till date. That's what he is giving here. He's saying how you have calculated it. Next question. His KK Limited runs a departmental store which awards 10 points. So even this is point basis system. Even this is a practical question. So first, he is running a departmental store in which he is awarding 10 points for every 500 rupees purchase. So for every 500 rupees, he is getting 10 points. Okay. If total, for example, here he got 1 lakh points. Sorry, 1 crore points. The entity awarded 1 crore points to the various customers, of which this 18 lakh points will remain undiscounted. Out of this 1 crore, 18 lakh will be undiscounted. Okay, and they are to be redeemed till 31st March. Here the management is also expecting out of this 18 lakh, only 80% of the remaining will be discounted in future. I mean, out of 18 lakhs, only 18% will be discounted. And after this value of 1 point, it will get 10 points for every 500 rupees, and 1 point is equal to 0.5 rupees. It can redeem. Now it should be redeemed for the future purchases within 3 years. It should be redeemed within 3 years. These are the important points here. And the company has approached your firm and it's asking for these questions. First one is, how will you recognize, how should the recognition be done for the sale of goods worth 10 lakhs on a particular day? For example, goods were sold for 10 lakhs. 10 lakhs for every 500. 10 lakhs. See here, the goods sale of the goods was 10 lakhs, and here for every 500 you get 10 points. So 10 lakhs divided by 500 into 10 points, right? You'll get 10 lakhs divided by 500 into 10 points. That is, you'll get 20,000 points here. So how you'll get, and 1 point is equals to, you got 20,000 points. 1 point is equals to again 0.5 rupees. So here 10,000 rupees should be recognized. See, 10,000 rupees, value of the point is 10,000 rupees, and that 10,000 rupees should be allocated in the ratio of 10 lakhs and 10,000. Okay, and that will be that in the ratio of 10,000, that will be, that should be, this 10,000 should be allocated between 10 lakhs and 10,000, and for this 10 lakhs revenue, you have to recognize 9,90,099. And here for the 10,000 revenue, you have that will be deferred. So here 9,000 will be deferred. The entry will be amount, you will reserve the whole amount of 10 lakhs whenever you sell the, whenever the sales are made in a bank. So bank account to sales. That is, you are recognizing only this revenue. To sales to revenue that is to be deferred. So this is all about the first one. And the second question is, how should the redemption transaction be recorded? In the year 1718, the company has requested you to present the sale of the goods and redemption as independent transaction. Here you have to this is independent of the first one, this question. And here total sales are 5,000 lakhs. Same thing, 5,000 lakhs divided by 500 rupees, right? Into 10 points you get for each 500. Okay, and then you have to multiply it with 0.5 because 1 point is 0.5 rupees. Then you'll get 50 lakhs. So here the value of the point is 50 lakhs, and again this 50 lakhs should be allocated between 5 lakhs, 5 lakhs, 5,000 lakhs, and also it should be allocated between 50 lakhs because the 50 lakhs is your um, points, value of points, and this 5,000 lakhs is your sales that you have received. So same bank account to sales account to liability under customer loyalty program. So this 5,000 lakhs will be allocated between 5,000 lakhs will be allocated between 5,000 lakhs and 50 lakhs, right? Here 5,000 lakhs are allocated between 5,000 lakhs and 50 lakhs in the ratio of 5,000 and 50 lakhs. Then you will get this amount, right? I think you are clear with this. Same as you have done with the first one. And this liability under the customer loyalty program. How you got this? In question he gave you 18 lakhs points are not redeemed out of this 1 crore points. Here for this 5,000 sales only, 5,000 lakhs, 5,000 lakhs, when you do 5,000 lakhs divided by 500, you got 1 crore points, right? In this 1 crore points, 18 lakh points were remain undiscounted. So here in this 1 crore minus 100, 1 crore is 100 lakhs, 100 lakhs minus 18 lakhs. You get 82 lakh points, right? In that 82 lakh points will be redeemed. I mean, that will be redeemed, this discounted, that 82 lakhs is already discounted. This 18 lakh points were undiscounted, and it is thinking that in this 18 lakh only 80% will be discounted. So 18 lakhs multiplied by 80%, 18 lakh multiplied by 80%, you get 14 lakh 40,000 if I'm not wrong. 18 lakh into 80% is 14 lakh 40,000. Now you have to add that 82 lakhs, whatever 100 lakh minus 18 lakh you did, 82 lakhs plus this 14 lakh 40,000 you have to add, right? If you add these both, you get 96.4 lakhs. So that is a total point. Now what is the revenue to be recognized now? What is the revenue to be recognized? See how we will recognize. Under the liability program, whatever the liability you have here, that is 49 lakh 50,495, that you have to allocate between 82 lakh and 96.4. I mean 82 lakh divided by total points 96.4. Okay, your 82 lakhs will be recognized now. 82 lakh points should be discounted. They are discounted. I mean the sales should be recognized for that 82 lakhs. I think you are clear. This liability will be reversed and the sales will be recognized for that 82 lakh points. Now that 82 lakh, in this whole amount of liability that you have recognized, that should be divided in the ratio of 82 lakhs and that 14 lakh 40,000 points. And here 82 lakhs, whatever you have, that 82 lakhs you are recognizing. That 14 lakh 40,000, that is 18 lakh into 80%, that will be recognized in future. See, in question he said that this 80% of the remaining will be discounted in future. That is, what is the remaining 18 lakhs? 80% of the 18 lakhs will be discounted in future. So here that will be discounted in future. So then if you do, typically if you do 49 lakh 50,495, when you multiply it with 80 lakh divided by 80, when you multiply with 82 lakhs divided by 82 lakhs plus 14 lakh 40, you get this. 42 lakh 11,000. See, here it is, right? Revenue should be recognized as 49 lakhs. You have to multiply with 82 divided by how you got this 82. That is 1 crore multiplied by 80 points. 1 crore divided by 82 lakhs, which were already recognized, out of which 18 lakhs were undiscounted, which were discounted, and 18 lakhs which were undiscounted. Out of 18 lakhs, 80% will be discounted in future. So that will be a whole discounted points will be this that will be recognized here. Now the third question will be here. The third question is how much of the deferred revenue should be recognized at the end of the year, because the estimation because of the estimation that 80% of the outstanding points will be redeemed. So you are estimating that 80% of the outstanding point will be redeemed. So how much of the redeemed revenue will be recognized? So here, how to calculate this total amount? You have 1 second. Yeah, you have here the revenue that is to be deferred will be total amount, total liability that is recognized minus liability that is reversed. That should be deferred for future. Okay, this 7,39,000 something you have that should be recognized for future. And the fourth one is in the next year, that is 18, 19, 60% of the outstanding points were recognized. I mean, in the future, you thought 80% will be recognized. Now it is saying 60% were only recognized, discounted, and 40% were undiscounted, still remain outstanding only. How much deferred revenue will you calculate? You have to use the same method. There is no change. How you'll do? You'll do 18 lakhs. You'll multiply 18 lakhs with 60%. That you'll get 10 lakh 80,000 points. Now you have to add that 10 lakh 80,000 with 82 lakh points. That is 92 lakh 80,000 points. So total points that will be discounted till date will be this 18 lakhs multiplied by 60% plus 82 lakhs. That will be the total discount, total points discounted. Now here, what is the liability that is recognized? 49 lakh 50,495. So this 49 lakh 50,495 multiply with, you have to multiply with 92 lakh 80,000 points that were now discounted, divided by 96.4 lakhs. The 96.4 lakhs is total discounted that you are expecting, but 60% is discounted. So that will be the numerator, and denominator won't change. Numerator will only change. Before it is 82 lakhs. Now 82 lakhs plus 10 lakh 80,000 were discounted. So the entry will be the deferred one. And what is the remaining one? Remaining undeferred. Sorry, this 5,54,620 should be recognized here as sales, as revenue you are recognizing, because further you are redeeming this point. Now what is the liability that is left over? Here the liability that is left over is the thing that you have deferred before. So here you have deferred 49 lakhs minus 42 lakhs, the deferred amount minus what you're deferring now, 5,54,620. So this will be left undiscounted. In the fourth year, without without doing any calculations, you have to discount this, because it is only available for 3 years and you're done for 3 years. When this program started, when this giving this is started, it should be redeemed till 31st March to 2020, right? That is within 3 years it have to redeem. So it have to redeem within that date. Now here in question, what you will redeem after 2019-20, this is the last year. 2019-20 this is last year. I mean 31st March 2020, you have to redeem whole point. So this is the end year. Whether or not the sale is made, you will recognize everything as a revenue. So everything will be reversed. Liability will be reversed. Whatever the liability which is left will be reversed. Whole liability. Next 55th question. See, you are reversing this. That's it. This one you are reversing here. Next, Nivan Limited have commenced the work. Nivan Limited has commenced the work on a 2 long-term contracts during the financial year ended 31st March 2020, and also the first contract with A and Co commences on 1st June 2018 and had a total sales of 40 lakhs. Right? Just read the question along with me. Here it is. First contract. Here there are two contracts. One contract with A Limited, A and Co, and second contract with B and Co. Right? This is very simple, easy question. And I think this question is on November 19 attempt in exam. It is from India's 115 question. So the first contract with ANCO commences on 1st June 2018, and also the total sales value is 40 lakhs, and it has an its costs are, I'm just giving you in brief. First, its sales are 40 lakhs, its costs are 32 lakhs, right? In question it gave the total costs are 32 lakhs, and the contract term is 2 years, right? And you can say 30% of the contract is complete till date, and it had incurred extra rectification, additional rectification cost of 2 lakhs on the contract during the financial year. And you can say 16 lakhs of amount, I mean, expenses are incurred till date. Okay, this is the brief thing in the that is given in the question. And in this, you have incurred 16 lakhs. But what is the amount that is received? You have received only 13 lakhs here. Payments received on account till date is 13 lakhs, right? And second contract you have BNCO. In BNCO, total sales are 30 lakhs. I mean, it's not like, yeah, total sales value is 30 lakhs and the cost is 24 lakhs. And you have incurred 8 lakhs till date, but you have received 9.5 lakh till date. And this 8 lakh is nothing but 20% complete. You can say it is 20% complete. Okay, you can say that the contract is 20% complete. It is given here. See, the contract was 20% complete. Also, the two contracts meet this requirement of Ind AS 115, that is revenue from contract with customers, to recognize the revenue over time as the performance obligations are satisfied over time. Also, the company also has the several contracts of between 12 and 18 months in duration. Various other contracts, but here you have to talk only about these two contracts because you don't have information about the other contract. So here you have to prepare the financial statement extract. So first extract will be your balance sheet, and second extract is your P&L account. So to prepare these two, you have to do some workings. The first working will be what is the revenue from the contract that you have. In question, you have already read that your revenue is 40 lakhs, and for the contract A, it is 30% complete. So 40 lakhs revenue total sales, 40 lakhs total sales multiplied by it is 30% complete. 40 lakhs multiply with 30%, that is 12 lakhs. Now what are the expenses? Now expenses were, you can take 34 lakhs because here 32 lakhs are their expenses, plus total additional rectification cost is 2 lakhs, that is 34 lakhs into what is the complete percentage, 30% complete. So what is the profit or loss here? That is 40 lakhs multiplied with 40 lakhs into 30% minus 34 lakh into 30%, that is 12 lakhs minus 10.2 lakhs. Here you get 1.8 lakh as a profit from contract. In the same way, you have to calculate the profit from the contract B. So that way you will get profit. First revenue, same, I'm again telling you, revenue first you have to give extract of balance sheet and P&L. That's what he asked. So for giving that, for giving P&L, you need profit, you need revenue. In P&L account you'll give revenue from the contract. Next, cost from the revenue, costs of revenue, I mean, what are the costs incurred to earn that revenue, right? Costs incurred, and then total sales minus costs incurred will be your profit. So for that you are calculating it. What is the revenue? 40 lakhs multiplied with 30%. Next, 34 lakhs multiplied with 30% profit. Here, next, here you have total sales of 30 lakhs. 30 lakhs multiplied with 20%, and you have total cost of 24 lakhs. 24 lakhs multiplied with 20%. Then you will get profit both together. And while doing, what is the, you have received some advance also from customer. So for that you can calculate your current assets and current liabilities for the advance that is received. And current asset is for the work in progress because only some part of the work is completed till date. So first you have to calculate the amount that is due from the customer in the second working note. For that, billing will be on the base of revenue recognized. I'll show you the answer also for convenience. So first we have calculated this. What is the profit from the contract? That is 3 lakhs. 40% is complete and 30% is complete for A, and 20% is complete for B and Co. In that way you got the profit. And second working will be, you have received some advance from the customer. right? What is the revenue that is recognized? 12. And what is the advance you have received? You have received more than what you have worked. Your revenue 13 lakhs is received from the customer. One. So you have received advance of 1 lakh extra. 1 lakh extra is received. You are recognizing only 6. That is total sales into 30 lakhs. 30 lakhs, this 6, how you got the 6? 30 lakhs into 20%. That is the revenue here that you recognized. 30 lakhs is their total sales and 20% is the work completed till date for this BNCO. That is 6 lakhs minus 9.5 is your advance again received from the customer. This is a total advance. It will be your liability in your balance sheet because advance received from customer, you are liable to work for them for the liability that is received. So it is advance received is a liability. Next, work in progress that is recognized. How will you recognize this? First, total actual cost will be 16 lakhs. You have incurred actual cost till date is 16 lakhs, but you are recognizing revenue of only 12 lakhs. Also, what is the cost that is recognized in books? That is here 34 lakhs multiply with 34 lakh into 30%. Here 24 lakh into 20%. That way you get work in progress till date. So you have to give your extracts here. Balance sheet extract. Liabilities advance will be your liability. Contract work in progress will be your asset. And here profit. That's it. This question is that easy. And next 56 question. Whether the person is a principal or an agent. For that first you have to first entity is negotiating with the major airlines. You have to determine whether it is a principal or an agent. What is principal, whether the entity is principal or an agent. Here the entity is entering into a major airlines to purchase the customers as a customers at a reduced rates, compared with the price of tickets that is sold directly to the airlines. So here the entity is buying specified number of tickets. Okay, even though it is not able to resell them, it have to buy. That is, you can say first one, the inventory risk is with the entity only because it is buying the tickets from the airlines. It is buying directly. So even though it is not able to sell, even if it is not able to sell those airlines, it have to retain it. And then it has an inventory risk, that is. And second thing is the reduced rate that is paid by the entity for each ticket purchase is negotiated and agreed in advance itself, right? It's a just negotiation. Next the entity is determining the prices for each ticket. And who is determining the rate price here? Who has a discretion to do that, to determine the price of that ticket? Here the entity is only having, not the airlines. It can sell at whatever price it wants, not the airlines. Next, the entity sells the tickets and collects the consideration, right? Next, here the entity also assists the customers in resolving the complaints. So in doing all this, you have to determine whether the entity is a principal or an agent. So to determine whether the entity is a principal or an agent, entity's performance obligation is to provide the specified goods or services itself, or to arrange for another party, or whether this entity is arranging for the other party to provide the goods and services. That is, so if the performance obligation is to provide a specified goods or services itself, then it is a principal. Okay, if the obligation is to provide the goods and services to another party, then it will be an agent, or arrange for the other party, it will be an agent. The entity considers the nature of promise. It should consider the nature of promise. The entity determines that its promise is to provide the customer with a ticket. That's it. It is discretion. It is its discretion to give the tickets to the customer. I mean, to sell at what rate. That is the entity's discretion only. Also, the entity considers the following indicators under the contract with the customers. First indicator is the entity is primarily responsible for fulfilling the contract, which is providing the right to fly. It have to fulfill the contract to the customer. The entity is not responsible for providing the flight itself, but right to fly it is responsible until the right, because without ticket no one can fly. So for that basic ticket, entities has a right. Entity is responsible. So first it is responsible to give a right to fly, but it is not providing flight. Airlines is giving flight, but it is giving just the right to fly. So it is responsible for providing the right. And second thing, it has inventory risk, because nevertheless it have to bear the loss. Nevertheless, it is selling the ticket or not, it have to bear the loss. Third thing, the entity has discretion in setting the sale prices for the customer, for the tickets to its customer. Here the entity concludes that its promise is to provide a ticket, that is the right to fly to the customer. So on the basis of the indicators, the entity concludes that it controls the ticket before it is transferred. It is controlling the ticket, so it is a principle. It is concluding that it is a principle in the transaction, and it is recognizing the revenue in gross amount of consideration in which it is entitled to receive on exchange, in exchange for the tickets transferred, right? Next question is, manufacturer M is entering into a 60-day consignment contract to ship 1,000 dresses to retailer A stores. It's shipping 1,000 dresses. Also, the retailer A is obliged to pay the manufacturer 20 rupees per dress. It is paying 20 rupees per dress, okay, when the dress is sold. Here, retailer is paying only 20 rupees, that too when the dress is sold. So here, retailer is not at all a principal, he's an agent. During the consignment period, we can see it's a consignment contract, that's why. During the consignment period, also manufacturer has a right to, contractual right to require this A, retailer A, to either return the dresses or to transfer them to other retailer. It is not permanently, all these dresses will not be permanently with retailer. Mr. A has a, sorry, manufacturer A has a right to call back, and also manufacturer has a right to ask the retailer to transfer those dresses to someone. So here manufacturer is also required to accept the return. Manufacturer should also accept the return of inventory. State when the control will be transferred. If, when the control should be transferred, we have to state here. So first, manufacturer determines that the control should be transferred to the retailer on delivery only. On delivery. That is for the following reasons. You should say on delivery for the following reasons. Why should not be transferred to retailer on delivery? That is, it is the control has not been transferred. Why it is not transferred on delivery? Because it will give 20 rupees per dress when it is sold to end customer, but not when the delivery is made to a retailer. So retailer is not giving 20 rupees to the manufacturer as in when he is receiving the dresses, but he is giving the 20 rupees as in when those dresses are sold to the third party, right, to the end customer. Does not have a, so these are the three reasons you can say that it is controlled and not transferred. First reason is retailer does not have a unconditional obligation to pay for the dresses until they have been sold to the end customer. And second, manufacturer M is able to require that the dresses be transferred to the another retailer, dresses be transferred to the another retailer at any time before, at any time before retailer A sells them to the end customer, and manufacturer M is able to require the entire of the dresses or transfer them to the another customer, another retailer. So these are the reasons you can say. These are the reasons you can say that the transfer is not made. Control is not transferred to A, right? And also Mr. M, manufacturer M determines that control of the dresses transfers only when they are sold to the end customer. That is when the retailer A has an unconditional obligation to pay for the manufacturer. That is 20 rupees. He have an unconditional obligation. He have to pay the manufacturer and can no longer return the goods because they are already sold to the end customer. Here, manufacturer M recognizes the revenue as the dresses are sold to the end customer, right? So you can say manufacturer is a principal. He is recognizing as and when they are sold to the end customer, but not the agent. That is middle person, retailer. Now next question 58. We'll do 60. I think we have only 61 questions. No, we have 63 questions. So here we'll do 60 questions. And while doing additional questions, we'll do these 3 questions and along with that additional questions. Okay. So first 58th question is like this. So an entity enters into a contract with a customer for the sale of a tangible asset. It is a tangible asset. Okay, it is a call option. Basically, this question is based on call option. The tangible asset will be sold on will be sold for how much? 10 lakhs. That is 1 million. And the contract has a call option. It can call back at 10.1 lakh. That is, it's like 1.1 million. It is calling back at 1.1 million, right? So on or before 31st December 2011. That here you can say that this call option generally is a finance agreement. It is a finance agreement because the seller is having a call option here. The seller will have a call option here because the seller is calling back the asset whenever he wants. he is calling back the tangible asset from the customer. So seller will have a right to call back. And this is a financing agreement. Why it is a financing agreement, we'll read in the question also. Here you can say the control is not transferred to the customer until 31st December, because until 31st, before on or before 31st December, the seller has a right to call back at 1.1 million. That is the financing agreement. The above In the above case, the answer goes like this. In the above case, where the entity has the right to call back the goods upon a certain up to a certain date, the customer cannot be said to have acquired the control. Okay, the customer will not have a will not cannot be said that he have acquired control until this 31st December. Okay, owing, because the seller entity has a repurchase right here, owing to a repurchase right with the seller entity. And second thing is, the original contract is only for 1 million, but the repurchase price is how much? 1.1 million. That is, the original contract is less, it is calling back for more. It is calling back for more amount. It's like seller is giving a loan to the customer. Okay, seller is giving a loan to the customer, and seller is collecting the loan along with interest. See, for example, seller gave 1 million loan, and seller is collecting the loan back at 1.1 million. Here you can say 1.1 minus 1 lakh is an interest. That's what is a financing agreement. See, and this tangible asset is just a transfer. This is a financing agreement. Amount received, that is 1 million received, will be a what, liability. Also, the difference between the sale and the repurchase price is to be recognized as a finance cost, that is interest, and recognized over a repurchase term. It's like financing agreement. And this is a lease agreement. Next one, because it is a put option for the customer, he can put back anytime. In this question number 59, see, an entity enters into a contract with the customer for the sale of a tangible asset. For the sale of a tangible asset on 1st January. For how much? Same, 1 million. For 1 million. And the contract also has a put option. A contract has a put option that gives a customer the right to sell the asset for 9 lakhs on or before 31st December 2011. Here the market price for such goods is expected to be 7.5 lakh. Market price is 7.5 lakh. Now how you are going to how would the entity will determine this transaction? So in the above case, the entity has an obligation to buy back the goods. Who has an obligation? The entity who is selling it has an obligation, and customer has an option to put back. Customer can put back anytime, okay, on or before 31st December 2011. So here you can say that entity who is transferring the asset, he can't recognize revenue until 31st December, because until 31st December he can't recognize revenue. And also you can determine that the control of the goods is not yet transferred to the customer, because the customer can give back the goods anytime. So here the entity shall evaluate if the customer has a significant incentive to buy back the goods up to a certain date. Here the entity shall evaluate if the customer has a significant economic incentive to return the goods. You have to see whether the customer has a significant economic incentive, because here when the customer is putting back the asset value is he is putting back at 9 lakhs, but the market value is 7.5 lakhs. When the asset is sold in the market, it can be sold at 7.5 lakhs, but here entity is giving 9 lakhs. So here he is having a significant economic incentive. So you can say he is having a significant economic incentive of 9 minus 7.5, that is he is having 1.5 lakh significant economic incentive, right, to return the goods. So he is getting that much extra. If he wants to sell in the market or to the entity, it will sell to the entity only, since the repurchase price is significantly higher than the market price. So the customer has a significant economic incentive to return the goods also. Also, there are no other factors which the entity may affect this assessment. Therefore, the company determines that the control of the goods is not transferred to the customer till 31st December. And that is until till the put option expires. Against the next, you can say also, against the payment of this 1 million, the customer only has a right to use the asset. Whenever this 1 million is paid, the customer has a right to use this asset, and he can put back this at any time at 9 lakhs, anytime before 31st December at 9 lakhs. So therefore, this will be accounted as a lease transaction. You can say that entity is giving for lease, right? And it is like it's collecting a lease rent. See, therefore, this will be accounted as a lease transaction in which the difference between the original selling price, that is 1 million, and the repurchase price 9 lakhs will be recognized as a lease income over the period of lease. Okay, and also the next point is at the end of the repurchase term, that is 31st December, if the customer does not exercise such right, then the control of the goods will be passed to the customer at that time, and the revenue will be recognized for the sale of goods for the repurchase price of 9 lakhs. Right? I think you are clear with this. So it is a lease transaction because the customer is having a right to put back. Okay, right? He'll put back, and the difference will be recognized as a lease income. Right? Lease income over the period of lease. So till here we can stop the this video. In the next video I'll complete remaining 3 questions from here. Okay, 60, 61, 62, 63, 4 questions from here, and along with that I'll do some additional questions also. We can complete that in 1 hour. That's it. So if you find it useful, just share it with your CA aspirants or friends so that they can reap the benefits from the same. That's it. Thank you.